Hi and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Flo and today's video is going to be the TikTok For You page picking my TBR. The reason I thought of this idea is because when I'm scrolling TikTok, or most prominently BookTok, the videos I'm drawn to the most are like the aesthetic videos that someone's posted about a book, and I'm just absolutely a sucker for those. And they are predominantly what drives me to either spontaneously straight up add the book to my Amazon cart and check out, go to the bookshop the next day, or add it to my Amazon wish list. And I found that actually a lot of those aesthetic videos tend to be romance books, but because I've been fully immersed in fantasy recently, I kind of want to do a few romance reads again, or maybe even some romance fantasy. Is it called romantasy? I don't know. So I'm not 100% sure how I'm gonna do this. I think I've got 6 videos that I found on TikTok on the For You page for books that I haven't read yet. And you know me, I like to read a mixture of paperback and audiobook, but I'm trying not to spend any money on Audible because I've run out of credits, but I do have the Scribe subscription. And so I've got these 6 books. I won't spoil the titles, but I checked Scribe and I checked Libby, and the books aren't available on either of those as audiobook. So I think what I'll actually end up doing is needing to read them on paperback. I feel like 6 might be a little bit ambitious to read in paperback for this video. I tend to read about 1 paperback a week and then a couple of audiobooks a week. So I reckon maybe if I pick 3 for this video, the way that I could do it is show 2 videos, and I am such a mood reader that whilst these have initially grabbed my attention, I might put 2 side by side and then I'm going to decide which one I'm more in the mood for when I get to it. So it might be easier if I go through 1 round at a time. So we'll do 3 rounds of this, and the first one we can get into right now to pick my first read out of all of the 6 books. Okay, so what I've done is I've screenshotted them and saved them on my TikTok page, but also on my phone. Let's do this video first. So this is Redeemed by Lauren Asher. And this was the video that I saw and it immediately grabbed my attention. And I was like, I need to finish this series because this book is part of the Dirty Air series. It's the last book and I have read all of them so far. So this is the only one I've got left. And now I'm off of my book buying ban. This was one of the books that I was like, actually, I really want to read it. It's funny that it came up on my TikTok For You page. I'm an absolute sucker for the aesthetic videos of the whole Dirty Air series. It was what got me to read Throttled, which was the first book in the series initially, was that I saw one of these quick picture aesthetic videos and I knew it was going to be right up my street. So just like that, this video caught me, I saved it, and I was like, when you're off your book buying ban, you need to get the book. And when I was looking at this video, I'll put it on the screen again, there's little snippets as to what the book could be about, because the types of videos on the Dirty Air series tend to have a lot of F1 drivers in it and those cute couple pics of them on the racetrack or whatever, which I love. But this video had a glimpse of a kid in it and then a glimpse of a prosthetic leg. I don't know much about this book. All I know that it's Santiago's book, which is Maya's older brother, and he is in the same racing team as Noah, which was the love interest in the first book. So it was Noah and Maya, and now it's Santiago. And what I know from the blurb, I think, is that it's fake dating, and I love fake dating. So this book kind of seems right up my street, and I'm gonna put it up against fantasy book. Actually, it's the only fantasy book in this sort of head-to-head of videos, and this is the video. So the book is Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I've seen so much about it on BookTok and BookTube. But the reason I like this, I'm just gonna play it again and watch it, is I was really drawn to this aesthetics video and I saved it immediately and knew I needed to read it, was because it looks very romantic. So it's fantasy. I've been reading a lot of fantasy at the moment, but it has glimpses of romance in it. A little bit rogue for me is that unless it's just on this aesthetic video and it's not the same for the actual book, is that the main characters are blonde. I don't like blonde male main characters. I always just picture them as brunette in my head, but I think I can overlook that. I don't know much about the book, but so many people have raved about it and it looks so romantic, and the aesthetic video just really caught me because I don't think I've ever really read a book like this before. But I actually don't know which of the two I want to read. Like I said, I've been in my fantasy bubble a bit at the moment, so it would be nice to get out of it. But it is like wintry weather, and so fantasy, it's the perfect time to read it. So maybe do I want a hybrid of fantasy romance? I don't know. I don't have either of these books in paperback, and I don't have a Kindle, so I'm definitely gonna need to get the paperbacks. Maybe I'll go and buy them both, and then when I look at the covers and I look at the blurbs, that might help me decide on top of this aesthetic video. I want to say at the moment, Redeemed is standing out to me more than the fantasy book, but let's go get them and then I'll decide, and I'll have a think about these videos and I'll play them a couple more times and see which one I want to pick. So I went book shopping, and I originally went to Waterstones Victoria with the intention of picking up Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I did that, and then I was thinking, oh, I'll just go home and order Lauren Asher's book because it's an indie published book. But then I was fully obsessed with book shopping, I was loving it, and I thought Waterstones Piccadilly is actually around the corner. I want to maybe get a few other books anyway. Completely forgot about Lauren Asher, and then I remembered that Waterstones Piccadilly do actually have indie published books on the shelf, and they had Lauren Asher Redeemed, and it was cheaper than what it was on Amazon, which is unheard of. So I picked that up, and I feel like because of that, that was a sign that this one's the winner. And look how pretty the cover is, but also the fact that it's fake dating. I really am obsessed with that trope. And then also with Once Upon a Broken Heart, I think I need a bit of a break from fantasy. So I will start reading Lauren Asher's Redeemed, and I will let you know what I think. And it also matches my bottle, so I love purple as well. This cover is like my favourite cover out of the whole series. So yeah, let's get into this book and I will let you know my thoughts. So today is Wednesday and I started reading Redeemed on Monday. It's so easy to get into, like I've read 132 pages so far. And I think compared, because I've been reading a lot of fantasy recently, the books for fantasy are normally really thick with really small text. So it's quite nice that this has quite big text, so I feel like I'm speeding through it. My thoughts so far, so this is the fourth book in the Dirty Air series, and it follows Maya's brother Santiago, and he gets into an accident, which then means he's like out of the F1 scene, and he is in Italy, and that's where he meets Chloe. And the trope of this is fake dating. And then I also saw on that aesthetics video that there was like a little kid in the aesthetics, and I was like, is this like a single dad trope? Does one of them have a kid? I don't know. It's actually Maya's son, and then Santiago's looking after him, and then Chloe gets introduced, and obviously like the kid falls in love with Chloe, which is really nice to like see. I'm not too far into it yet, but I can kind of see where it's going. The one thing I would say, the reason that they start fake dating to me feels really strange. The way they meet is really rogue. I can understand the reasons they start fake dating, but when Chloe turns up to Santiago's house the second time they've met, it's really strange because he thinks that she's, I'm not spoiling anything by the way, but he thinks that she's paparazzi, and then like she doesn't even know who he is, but he never actually outright asks, and they never clarify that. And I think this book heavily relies on miscommunication and lying as like plot twists, and I don't love that, but it's a really easy read, so I'm unsure how I would rate it. Like I'm flying through it, but I find some of the premise of plot around the fake dating and the lies and miscommunication not really my cup of tea, but Maya's son is really cute, so I'm looking forward to like seeing how much this continues. But I hope that there's a bit more to the plot, because Chloe went to Italy to try and find her dad, and she's withholding so much information, not just to Santiago but to her dad as well. So yeah, I don't love that trope, but maybe it will turn out and be really good. I don't know. Some of it feels a bit unrealistic, and I do find sometimes their dialogue doesn't feel that realistic. I find that with Lauren Asher anyway, because I struggled with that in the last book. But anyway, I'm going to keep reading. I think I will finish it this week because big text, easy plot. So yeah, I'll keep you updated. So I have finished reading Redeemed by Lauren Asher. It is the 4th book in the Dirty Air series and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't my favourite in the series. I would say Throttled, which is the first book, holds a special place in my heart, and that was a 5-star read for me. I think because like the world is new and the characters are new, and I just loved Noah and Maya so much, so I loved that you saw them in this book. The reason I didn't give this 5 stars is because I think some of the language felt a little bit cringe to me. I don't think some of the dialogue that Santiago says is really what like a mid-20-year-old man would actually say, and I think once I pivoted between fantasy and romance a little bit, you kind of realise sometimes, I don't know what it is, but reading fantasy or having like a higher level plot makes you then question some of the romance dialogue, or I don't know, I can't really explain it, but some of it just didn't feel that realistic to me. The whole plot of this isn't that realistic. Like the reason they fake date, how they first meet each other, because Chloe moves to Italy, but they end up meeting like in his back garden. It's almost like a breaking and entering type thing. And then the reason they start fake dating, I couldn't really believe or get on board with. So I think that's why it wasn't a full 5-star for me. Whereas the first book, Throttled, felt really realistic for me and I felt like I could connect to the plot and the characters so much more. And with this book and its aesthetic video, the aesthetic video really caught me, hence why I chose to read it. And I suppose you could say like, oh, if you had high expectations because of that video, did it meet my expectations reading the actual book? And I would say it actually surpassed them, because the video didn't give too much away, it didn't spoil it, but it gave you snippets of some really cute, nice aspects of the book, which I guess caught my attention in the first place. And I would say like, I loved the way that Santiago's injury was like weaved into it, and you really saw his growth after leaving F1 after an injury, going really recluse for 3 years. And then it's really nice how like the relationship with Chloe brings him out of his shell, but then also Chloe comes out of her shell because of their relationship. Like I love romance novels where the couples are strong characters as individuals, but as a couple they just like do so much good for each other and they bring each other up. So it was really nice to read. 4 out of 5 stars. Wasn't a 5 because it was nowhere near as amazing as Throttled, and I found some of the dialogue a little bit cringe and some parts of the plot unrealistic, but I would say it's good and I would definitely recommend it. And I would now go on to picking the next read out of 2 videos that go head to head with each other, but classic me was like, oh, I want a break from fantasy, but I've actually picked up Iron Flame because I couldn't resist reading it. After finishing Fourth Wing, I wanted to read it so bad. I'm such a mood reader, so I'm gonna read that. Hopefully it'll only take me a week, and then I will come back and I will pick the next 2 videos to go head to head with each other to pick my next read. Okay, so it's actually embarrassingly been a while since I finished the Lauren Asher book, and that is because I'm such a mood reader that instead of coming straight back and deciding between 2 more books, I mood read something completely different that was not on the list. Classic me. But we're back and we are now going to decide between My Dark Romeo and Say You Swear. I have the videos saved on my phone, so I'm going to rewatch them. It's been so long since I have. Like I said, I'm a mood reader, so I wonder if my mood is also going to influence this pick as well, depending on the video. So if we start with My Dark Romeo, I'm going to play the video now. So like the reason I was obsessed with this video when I first watched it is because I love the arranged marriage, like marriage of convenience trope. And I also love fake dating where they're doing stuff in the act of being together, but you also question like whether they're doing it because they actually have feelings or not. And I love that, like when they're doing something and it's supposed to be acting, it's supposed to be fake, but it's totally not. And you can see that, like, especially when the guy falls first, that is what makes me so obsessed the most. So I do love that video. The only reason I'm hesitant is because it's dark romance, and I would assume it is based upon the title. And I'm not sure if I'm in a full mood for a dark romance, but maybe we'll watch this video and then we'll decide. This next video is a quote. Yeah, I don't know why I'm laughing because it's like so sad. sad. I get the vibe, and I didn't when I picked it up and I bought it. I get the vibe that it's like a sad, emotional book. And I didn't think that at all. Like, I genuinely thought from like the cover and even the old cover, I thought that it was just like a football romance, like it was going to be sort of Elle Kennedy vibes. And when I saw that aesthetic video, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that it was this book, and that looks so sad and so emotional. And then it got more coming up on my For You page. I remember this video of this girl crying, and she was like, don't go into it knowing too much about it, but just know that this is going to break and destroy your heart. So it basically is a toss-up between whether I'm in the mood for my heart to be completely ripped out of my chest, or if I'm in the mood for like dark romance, you know, and it's got the ultra like protective man and how he can't go like days without seeing her. My guess is this is enemies to lovers. I love that anyone could be watching this that's read both of these and be like, Flo, you've got both of the premises of these books so wrong based upon the TikTok For You page. And that's sometimes the downside of the For You page, because I find that some people do like aesthetic videos or like quotes or give sort of a backstory into a book, and it doesn't end up meeting your expectations based upon that one snippet of the book. But because I'm such a mood reader, I'm really in the mood to have my heart like emotionally ripped out of my chest. So I think I'm going to go for Say You Swear. And I feel like these videos completely solidified that for me. Like when I saw that quote again, I was like, I want to read it. I want to have my heart ripped out. Although I was kind of tempted by this because I do love the masculine vibe of when he falls, and he falls really hard. I love that. And that's what that quote seems like it will be, but I don't know, I could be wrong. So I'm going to read this and I'm going to let you know what I think. Hopefully I don't come back in floods of tears after reading this book, but I will keep you updated. Okay, so I'm over halfway through the audiobook and like I don't normally like cry at books or anything like that, so I've just listened to a really shocking bit, and I should, like most people would be in floods of tears right now. Oh my goodness, such a plot twist. And I'm glad I didn't delve too deeply into like all of the TikTok videos about this book, because I know that it would have been spoil had I done that, and I'm so glad I didn't. And that video that I watched where the girl was crying and she was like, go into the book blind, because it's actually better to do that than to know too much about the story because it's so emotionally powerful. I'm really feeling that now. I have a long drive home tonight back to my parents' house, so I think I should actually finish this book today, and I have not been listening to it for very long. Like I've been listening to it for a few days. I'm obsessed, but like also my heart has been ripped out and I have no idea where this is going to go. I feel like maybe I do, and I'm guessing, but then I have been guessing throughout and I've been wrong. And I think that's an amazing thing about a book, when you think you know what's going to happen, but then what you expect doesn't happen and something better happens, or better or more heartbreaking happens. Either way, I'm taken on such an emotional roller coaster. Like I genuinely thought at the beginning of this book it was like a fluffy sports romance, and I'm so wrong. I'm so wrong. So yeah, I'm gonna keep listening. So I've officially finished the audiobook of Say You Swear, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm glad I did audiobook. I can't remember if I've already said, but I remember when I first recorded, and it's been ages, but I remember when I first recorded the intro to this video, I was like, I'm gonna read all of them in paperback, but it was just taking me too long, and I'm having like a bit of a slower reading month. So I'm glad I listened to this on audiobook. I found since reading a lot of fantasy that romance books I'm better in audiobook, and then sort of fantasy and other genres are better in paperback, because I feel like with those you need to pay more attention, whereas a romance plot feels easier to follow. And I think I also said last time when I gave an update, I was like, I'll let you know what this book is about once I finished it. But actually, I will give you the tropes, but I don't want to give you too much information, and I would advise staying away from TikTok when you read this book. I think the less you know about it when you go into it, the more enjoyable it is, because the plot turns just go in a completely different direction from what you expect, and I think it's amazing. I sometimes find like romance novels are quite predictable. This one, not at all, but obviously if you go into a TikTok hole, you will find spoilers and things. This will hurt you, stitch you back up together, make you cry, make you laugh. Just all the emotions are jam-packed in this book. The tropes are brother's best friend, but not in a traditional way that you think. And then also it's like football, sports, romance. What else is there? Like found family. Yeah, those good tropes, all of my favorite tropes. And there's probably more, but I can't remember them off the top of my head now. But I would say this is like a sports romance, but with so much more emotion packed within it. And so if you haven't already read this, please pick it up. It was so good. So 4 out of 5 stars. The reason I didn't give it 5 was I honestly just think if I don't have that like, oh my god, I'm obsessed and I'm thinking about it, I don't give it a 5-star. So yeah, I think Binding 13 kind of ruined that rating system for me because I just have that book on such a pedestal and I say it all the time, but it just wasn't a Binding 13, so I gave it 4 stars. And I didn't read it as well, listen to it as quickly as I thought I would. So that's the reason why. And then you might be thinking, Flo, why aren't you going straight into the next book? Why haven't you got the 2 videos up and you're picking between? And that is because I'm currently at my parents' house, if you can't tell by the background, and I don't want to pick the book because I didn't bring either of them to read next, and I still need to finish. I'm reading like a Christmas book at the moment for another vlog, so I need to finish that paperback. But I'm such a mood reader, so I think when I have the 2 videos, I want to see what I'm in the mood for the most when I look at those videos in that moment so that I'm ready to pick it up and read it straight away, because I think if I pick it too early and my mood changes, it could put me in a reading slump if I pick the wrong one. So we have 2 more videos to choose from and it will be the last book in this vlog. Okay, so now I'm back in my apartment. I am now deciding between the last 2 books in this video. So it's The Simple Wild and Flop. I don't know anything about these books, so we will primarily be going into the aesthetic videos and picking from there. I actually haven't read the blurbs of either of these, so let's look at the videos. So let's look at the one for Flock first, because if I explain myself.
After this, you want to watch a movie? You can make that cheddar popcorn I love. We can crowd under that blanket that smells like... What's that smell?
Lavender.
And I'll let you watch a chick movie because all I really want to do is watch you watch it.
So, to explain, this is actually the video that made me have this idea to do this video, because this was the first one that I saw on my For You page and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to buy it immediately. But when I did a bit of Googling, so this is for Exodus, and this is actually the 2nd book in this series, and this is the 1st book. So I was like, let's get this book and let's start this series. Like, I'm obsessed with that video. And I know that the person that created this video, I've seen a few of her videos before and she obsesses over this author and it's like her all-time favorite author. So I've seen loads of people talk about this book online, and just that like element of romance and that relationship that they clearly have in this really gets me, and that's what has sort of made me want to get the whole series. But other than that, I don't know anything about it. I've not seen any spoilers on TikTok, haven't seen anything. So based on that video and based upon that relationship, I want to start this series because I want to get to that book, but I don't know much about this one. And then let's put it up against The Simple Wild and see how I feel. It's so cute. Okay, so I feel like that video gives way more of an insight into what this book is about, because it even gives the tropes in it compared to this one. But I'm kind of torn because this one was the reason that I started this video in the first place, so I almost feel like I have to give this series a go. But this one, so the tropes are slow burn, small town romance, grumpy, which I've never read before actually, and forced proximity. And I love forced proximity, small town, and slow burn. And I feel like this is such like a wintry aesthetic, and considering we're like now into winter, I'm more leaning towards this one. And I don't know if that's fair because I know more about this based on the aesthetic video than this one, but we are going solely on the videos. And if we're going solely on the videos, yes, okay, this was the OG, but I think I'm gonna go for this one. It's been snowing recently here, the weather's cold, slow burn is exactly what I'm in the mood for, the aesthetic, like the cold, and the plains in it was interesting as well, and like small town, and this is exactly what I want to go for. So I'm gonna go for this one, and I'm gonna read it in paperback, so I will let you know my thoughts as I start reading this book. This book is so good. I have been speeding through it. It took me a while to originally get into it, and then once I got past the 100-page mark, I have been flying through this every night, and I've only got this tiny amount left, but it's like giving everything I could possibly want. Being a mood reader, this was exactly what I was in the mood for, so I'm glad that I had this one to choose from out of the other book. I can't even remember what the other book was now. Oh yeah, it was Flock, wasn't it? But I really wanted and was in the mood for a small town romance, and it's remote in Alaska, cold weather, and we're in winter, so it is everything that I wanted, and I'm definitely gonna give this 5 stars. I mean, I know I've not finished it yet, but I've got about 60 pages left and I'm gonna finish it tonight, and I have no doubt it's 5-star. It's all I've been able to think about in the day, and I just love the characters so much. I love how grumpy the main male character is, and I just love the twist. When I was first reading this book, because it's grumpy and grumpy, I couldn't see how, and it's almost slightly enemies to lovers, but not really enemies, they just don't get along, and I didn't know how I would see these two characters coming together. Like, I saw that, did I see their chemistry? It's really hard to explain, but you know when people are like so opposite and they're just not getting on at all, and there's no like sexual tension, you're like, how is this gonna turn out? And then when it flipped and they went to lovers, just really perfect, and just the way he is with her, it's just so great. And I'm kind of speechless, and I don't really have very good descriptors to say how I feel about this book and how I feel about the characters, but I'm loving it, and it's really great, and it's just everything I could want to read right now. So I'm just excited to put my pajamas on, get cozy, finish this book with a hot chocolate. So yeah, I'm loving this book. My favourite out of all of the ones I've read so far, I would say. So I have finally finished The Simple Wild, and 5 stars. It was so good. It basically follows a girl called, I guess I say her name Kala or Carla, I don't know. Anyway, she moves to Alaska. So she lived in Toronto, and she gets a call from her dad's friend saying that her dad is unwell, and so she goes to Alaska because they haven't spoken or seen each other for 24 years. Her and her mum left Alaska when the girl was 2 because the mum couldn't handle like how remote Alaska was, and her dad Ren is like an owner of this flight company, but they do like on the cover, they do these charters all over the remote areas of Alaska to like drop off food or drop off supplies, medical things, and then to take tourists or hikers, campers, people that fish to different remote areas of Alaska. And so the town where she initially was born is really remote and small, and her mum, I think she had grown up in Toronto maybe, then fell in love with Ren, moved over to Alaska where he had this company, had a few years there while also Carla was born, and then Carla got to 2 years old and the mum was like, I can't do this anymore, can we move to a city, etc. But Ren was so tied to his work that he didn't want to leave Alaska. He felt like he couldn't. They end up losing touch. So fast forward 24 years later, Carla gets a phone call from a lady called Agnes, and it's like, your dad's sick, you need to come to Alaska to see him. And so she initially goes out for a week, and then as time goes on she extends her trip because she gets to know her dad, reconnects with him, and like sees where, like, I guess she almost spent the first 2 years of her life. And there's another hot pilot called Jonah that comes in, and they're like enemies, if you can call it that, and they like don't get on at first because he, like, his nickname for her is Barbie because she turns up in these like wedged heels and has loads of makeup and, you know, just a proper girly girl, and he tries to sort of not bring that out of her, I guess, but sort of get her used to Alaska and everything. This has kind of been left on a cliffhanger, and I know that there is another full book in this series with their perspective, but then I also think there might be a novella, and then after that there's another book, but it's a completely different couple. I absolutely loved this book. Like, it's 5 stars, and it's going to be one that I'm going to be thinking about for ages, and I can't believe I'd never heard of it. Like, I picked it up in the Asda 2 for £8 deal. I think the reason that I loved it was I was really really in the mood for like small town romance, like a remote area with like a lot of country setting, but this is obviously snow, mountains, which is really great in winter. Because I live in London, I've been really homesick lately, and I grew up in like a suburban town, and for me, I wasn't fully remote, I wasn't in like the countryside or anything, but there's still a lot more space than London. And I think my dog is full on snoring, if you can hear that, sorry if you can, but she's had a long day, she's been in the office with me, so she's just fully snoring now. Yeah, I basically moved to London for work, and it's really busy and very expensive. There's a lot going on and I'm constantly tired, and my hobbies are just reading and writing, and you can do that anywhere. And I think reading this book has made me really miss home a bit, and I think I was missing it anyway. So this was a great comfort read, and it was really like in tune with my feelings and emotions at the moment. And you know when a book is just giving you the comfort that you need, like every time I'd come back from work and it'd be really busy, I'd just escape into this remote world, and it was great. So a really great book to end this vlog on. We have massively gone out with a bang, and I'm so happy about it. So 5 out of 5 stars. I've really enjoyed all the books I've read. It's been nice getting into a bit more romance because I've been in my fantasy era at the moment. So yeah, I have loved this book, and I can't wait to get the sequel. I don't know what I'm gonna read now. I think I might need a break so that I don't go into a reading slump, because you know when you love a series or a book so much that when you finish it, you feel such a hole that you don't want to read again. So while I've still got another one of these, I've got a few more of these books in this series, I'm gonna switch out to something else, and then I'm gonna come back to this. I loved it so much. And then I might start reading the other books that didn't quite make this, that I didn't choose. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. And if you think of any other videos like this that you want to see from me, anything else that should decide my next books that I'm going to read, let me know in the comments. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.